Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Core, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Core specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Core can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscore.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Core are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Good evening and a very warm welcome indeed to you all, wherever you may be. Thank you for tuning in to the Football Out West show. It's episode 105 tonight, and my name is Tonchi Prusak. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again here for another massive Sunday night of weekend football. And joining me, as he does week in, week out, my trusty co-host and colleague, Steve Curtin. Good evening, Steve. It's a warm welcome, but not as warm as yesterday was. And boy, was it hot and blustery across many grounds throughout the region.
Oh, that's right. And I tell you what, if you're at NPL3 at Caroline Springs at about 5:30 yesterday, we were just lucky to escape. Still living to tell the tale, Tonchi, but it was warm, it was windy, and eventually the cool change came in. And then today was a nice, pleasant day, and it was good to see everyone at George Cross yesterday, including our man Vladimir Zedovic, who was patrolling the grounds yesterday, doing a great job as well. Mark Sultana, the president, there as well. We're going to have a little bit of chat with him later on too, just spoilers. But no, it's been a good day. I had a bit of a break from football today, but managed to, start to get a bit of FOMO and tuned into St Albans and Oakley Cannons at 5 o'clock. Went out for a kick in the park and come back and made some chavapi rolls just before the show. So yeah, football is it's always close by, isn't it? How's your weekend been though, Tonch?
It's been pretty busy. Definitely all to do with the football. Speaking of football, I was calling the North Geelong game yesterday against Hume City, and man, I think I said it on air. If I wasn't blown to the land of Oz yesterday, I don't think I ever will be. But big shout out to all the hardworking crew at North Geelong Warriors. They've got a new TV tower, a much heavier duty TV tower, and I'm very thankful for that, because at one stage in the under-21s game, a skylight came ripping off the grandstand and actually landed and crashed and smashed like a meteorite on the field. Luckily, there were no players there, but geez, at one stage it was like, I wonder if the referee's going to call this game off, because the wind was just atrocious. And by the second half, it was a lot more pleasant conditions. There was a bit of a breeze. But look, today I got out and about coaching my little ones' team in a practice match, and also taking a little bit of junior NPL action in, and it was just absolutely lovely weather today. But enough about our weather chats. Let's talk about tonight's show, Steve. As you mentioned, Mark Sultana, the president of Caroline Springs George Cross, looking forward to renewing old acquaintances and old friendships with Mark. George Cross, of course, were our major sponsor for the last 3 years. No longer they are the major sponsor. These days it's Carpentry by NJT and Home Builder Core as well. So a massive shout out there to Nick from those two organisations. But we're going to have Mark a little bit later on in the show. He's going to be talking about his side's, well, very, very successful or not return, but arrival in the NPL 3 competition. And we'll also talk about the senior women's Nike FC Cup triumph in round 3. But who are our other guests, Steve, for tonight's show?
Yeah, we've got a couple of beauties as well. Also joining us to talk about the NPL 1, and they had a great result on the weekend. It's one of the best, most highly regarded young coaches in the land. Actually, it's Ben Kahn from the Melbourne Knights, who's recently made the move down from Olympic FC in Queensland, and the Knights are going along pretty nicely. So I'm looking forward to hearing what Ben has to say. I had the privilege of seeing them firsthand back in round 1. Obviously, it's a work in progress in those early stages of the season, but it just looks like they're starting to kick into gear with a great result against Port Melbourne away from home yesterday, which is J.L. Murphy is a very tough place to go these days. So they've done very well. So yeah, things are looking promising at Knight Stadium, I think, Tonchi. So we'll be speaking to Ben, and also from the State League 2 Northwest, Clifton Hills coach Nick Georgia Kopoulos is joining us as well. Is that correct? Sorry.
Georgia Kopoulos, is it?
Georgia Kopoulos, yes.
Kopoulos, yeah. That's a big one. That's going to be a really good one with the State League season kicking off over the weekend. So heaps of matches there as well. We've got the NPLW as well, competition kicking off. So that'll come on in a little bit later on in the news desk. And speaking of the news desk, we're going to let you slip away for now. You're going to get yourself ready. Don't go away, folks. Straight after these short messages from some of our sponsors, we're going to have tonight's news desk. We've got heaps to get through. So without further ado, this is the Football Out West Show, episode 105 that you are now watching.
At Guzman Finance, like you, we are passionate about the Western suburbs and football. Our main passion, however, is helping customers succeed in their financial goals. As trusted mortgage brokers, we offer knowledge, personalised service, and access to hundreds of loan products from Australia's leading lenders. If you're in the market for buying your first home, looking for a better interest rate on your mortgage, renovating your home, or buying an investment property, my team and I will help you manage the process from start to finish. Avoid costly mistakes and expensive loan products. Contact our office on 9369 6805 or 0425 826 055.
All right, just going along nicely there. We've got that nice little sting. Now it's time for the news on Sunday, the 19th of March, 2023. We're going to start off with the news from this week, which maybe took some of us by surprise, perhaps, and that's the A-League expansion news with the APL chair, Danny Townsend, coming out and announcing that Canberra and Auckland will join the A-League men's competition in season 24-25, while another team, likely from Southeast Queensland, is expected to be one of two more sides added just a year later in 25-26 season, which will make the league up to 16 teams. So, yeah, it's interesting timing on this one as well, Tonch, with the National Second Division announcement happening almost simultaneously with this announcement. Danny Townsend hasn't ruled out clubs being promoted from that National Second Division, but of course, I think everyone's quite sensible in realising that it will take time for those clubs to become established at that level in that competition that should be fledgling at that time, and it would probably be too early to be promoting sides out of that competition to the National League standard that is going to be a challenging thing to meet, mainly looking at finances and things like that, you would think. So,
I beg to differ.
I don't know what you think, Tonch, but if you're in the comments as well, put your comments in. Santino's looking for Auckland away trip. I love a good away trip. No one does more than Santino. But yeah, Tonch, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to this. I think there's a real calculated approach to all of this expansion and all that. Remembering, the National Second Division is going to be basically run by Football Australia. So they're kind of now running the Football Australia, the second division, but obviously they've got a big say in what happens with the A League. Yep, the APL now runs it and all of that kind of stuff. But it's interesting, the two teams, Canberra, that's a no-brainer. We've been saying for years, everyone's been saying the nation's capital ought to be in the national competition. That's no doubt about it. Auckland. Now that's an interesting one. A lot of critics are saying, well,
a lot of controversy.
Yeah,
there is,
and a lot of people are saying, well, it should have really have been. You know what? It should have been an Australian team, and why a second New Zealand team? Yada yada. But I think take these two teams out. Who would be most likely be ready for that next phase, but they're not quite? I reckon it could be someone like Wollongong, maybe Gold Coast,
that's
maybe
the first
Brisbane.
that comes to mind.
Now, who are some of these teams in the national second division? You've got Gold Coast United, you've got Wollongong, and then you've got this Brisbane consortium. I wouldn't be surprised. And remember, in 2024, early 2024, national second division kicks off. 2024-25, so later in the year, the new promoted teams come in. What's not to say that this national second division might be a little bit of a birthing, if you like, a forum for either Wollongong, Gold Coast, or Brisbane to come in the second time round, So getting them to sort of taste test that national kind of element to it, and then actually accepting them as a fully fledged member. So technically, we could have promotion from national second division into the A-League within 2-3 years. That's an interesting take. I'd love to hear what you guys out there in Radio Land think. Pop it in the comment section. Am I really way off, or what do you think? But Steve, what's your thoughts on it?
Oh, look, I don't think you're too far off. I think some of the criticism is that 25-26 season might be too early for a club to have just started out in that national second tier to then go up again into a A-League position, perhaps. But if it does work, like what you're saying, well, that's probably it is clearly the best way to fill the top tier of the domestic competition is with those teams that get there with demonstrated merit and existing established clubs. What will these clubs look like? The two new ones, Canberra, will it be an extension of the Canberra United women's team that we see at the moment? Like that brand is already run by the territory federation there. Yeah. So they're a little bit different to some of the other clubs that get around. And then as far as Auckland, how will that look? Where will they play? There's a lot of questions there as well.
But it's interesting also what they're suggesting. They're going to basically create a club in a box. Basically going to create a club, and then they're going to sell this club for 25 million or thereabouts, the license fee. That's a lot of money. Now, who would possibly want to come? You'd probably be looking at overseas investors. That's about the only thing I can think of. Canberra, for example, the ACT, whatever it's called, Capital Football, yes, they do run Canberra United, but I would say they would prefer like a rich overseas investor coming in, and then they'd probably relinquish Canberra United and pass that to this new consortium. So it basically then becomes, or even sell the license. I don't know. But as you said, interesting times ahead. Speaking of interesting things, the Socceroos, let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, Arnie Graham Arnold is not known for giving youngsters the hope so much, perhaps, but this is an exception to that with the next generation of Socceroo stars potentially getting a look in. And the player that we've actually forgotten to add to our slide there is Manchester City's Alexander Robertson, a player eligible to represent 4 different nations. He's been called up to the squad after some good performances, mainly in the under-23s. Pretty hard to crack the first team at Manchester City, to be fair, but good to see him getting a chance and getting a look at him. We've kept him out of that slide just because he's a mysterious figure and no one really knows what he actually looks like in real life. No one's seen him, but his father and grandfather have represented the Socceroos, so there's a nice narrative there, I think, and excited to see what he can offer as a midfielder in the team. But also we've got, for the first time called up, we've got Adelaide United goalkeeper Joe Giacchi, as well as Melbourne City duo Aidan O'Neill, the 24-year-old, and Geordie Boss, who played his junior football at Hoppers Crossing in the heart of Football Out West territory there. So looking forward to seeing Geordie get a chance. He's been really good for Melbourne City this season. And the Adelaide excitement machine, Nestory Irankunda has been selected as part of a train-on position for the 2 matches against in Sydney and Melbourne as they come up on Friday and Tuesday. Perhaps we might see him even feature in the second match in Melbourne on Tuesday week. Maybe there's been some rumours that might happen, and I'm going to the game, so I'd certainly like to see that. What do you think about these youngsters getting a chance from Graham Arnold? Does it shock you? Are you surprised, or you think he might have actually been doing this plan all along?
Oh, look, I think Arnold's been there long enough, and he's been given a contract extension. So obviously he's got one eye on the future as well as one eye on the present. And every time you look to the future, you got to look at your succession plan, or you got to look at who you're going to bring up to be your next generation. No, it doesn't surprise me, and I guess this is kind of that in between period, between World Cups and Asian Cups and things like that. So this is a good opportunity to try and blood a few of those youngsters. And look, maybe he's also had his critics in the past, and Football Australia and the A-League have had their critics about, either regurgitating players or recycling players is the word I'm looking for, and not giving enough youngsters a go. This is an opportunity to do exactly the opposite and maybe sort of, I don't know what's the word. But it just becomes very, very responsible planning for the future. So, look, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it gives hope to the other young players that if they're performing, that they will get an opportunity. They're getting looked at. They'll get a chance. And what an experience for a 17-year-old as well to get involved in the national team squad. A kid in, I think is he in year 11 at school or something? It's pretty good.
Speaking of exciting 17-year-olds on the world stage, former North Geelong Warrior Noah Skorkor, who about 9 months ago was playing in front of 200, 300 people in suburban grounds, this week just gone by, played in front of 16,000 people, fans at Borussia Dortmund's Westfalen Stadium as part of the UEFA Youth Champions League. Steve, tell us more.
Yeah, well, after getting the assist in the previous round, Noah did start on the bench in this one, but he came on in the 62nd minute in this match. It was tied at 1-1, went to penalties. And you were tuning in this one, Tonchi. Hajduk scored 9 out of 9 successful penalty kicks, including Noah's spot kick. Is that right? And Dortmund missed their 9th kick, and they went down 9-8. So Hajduk going through to play Milan in the next round, the semi-final.
Yeah, that's an amazing result. There was something like 5,000 travelling fans as well. We're talking about a youth league game.
That's incredible.
It's insane, isn't it? And to think that the level of, I mean, they're becoming household names. Young Noah Skorkor, for example, in Split, where he's now located, he's done more TV and radio and newspaper interviews and has been plastered in 6 months than he has been in his entire career in Australia, obviously. And look, a lot of people say, well, he's already represented Croatia at under 17 level, and this is a big story that we keep on going about, the lack of proper adequate scouting here in Australia. He was overlooked at an under 16 identification or talent identification training camp, and it seems to be a case of unless you're in the A-League academies and unless you're from Sydney, you're going to not get noticed, and that's exactly what happened here. His old man Skorkor Senior has taken him to Croatia. He's now considered one of the most exciting juniors in that club that has produced some unbelievable juniors in recent years. So watch this space. In a few weeks' time, I think it's late April, that's when the semi-finals of the UEFA Youth League is on. But Skorkor is doing exceptionally well. He's becoming a very focal part of that junior setup. Mind you, he's playing up an age group as well. So he's playing in the under 19s when really still eligible to play for the under 17s. But
very, very impressive, Graham Arnold. I hope you're watching and maybe just get on the phone at some point, have a bit of a chat, and just see what's happening.
Can you get us back?
Just check in.
What's the old? I mean, Alex Robertson. You mentioned him. He's eligible to play for 4 different countries.
Yeah, he's represented England at youth level already. He's represented. He hasn't represented us, but he grew up in Sydney, born in Scotland, and he's got a mother with Peruvian heritage. So he could have played for a plethora of different countries. But his he seems pretty
Yeah.
determined that he wants to represent Australia, and that's great. And it's good to see some interviews with him and his father during the week after the announcement.
Well, that's an
It's going
interesting
to be a big
point.
deal for him.
Yeah. About that, it's a global village these days. Young Noah Skoko was born in Manchester when his father was playing for Wigan. So he's eligible to play for England. He's eligible to play for Australia. He's eligible to play for Croatia that we know of. Robertson, he's got 4 countries that he could play for. So our scouting has to become now even better. Not just here locally, but and it really, really needs to improve. But overseas as well, there are hundreds of young Australian kids playing overseas that we are not aware of. Yeah, so our scouting really needs to be very good. All right, let's move along very quickly because we're running out of time. We've got our first 2 guests, Ben Khan and Mark Sultana, in the green room. Let's quickly touch base with the NPLW Victoria started its season on the weekend. Let's go through the round 1 scores, mate.
Yeah, we waited a long time for this to kick off, but it's finally here. It kicked off on Friday night and didn't get to any games on the weekend myself. I'm hoping to get to a few of these this season and perhaps be on the mic for some of them too. But what a beauty to kick it off. Box Hill 3, Calder United 3 at Wembley Park. An absolute cracking game. Calder United, usually the super duper powerhouse in this competition. They're a little bit weakened because, of course, we've seen all their players representing Western United in the A-League Women, or a large amount of their players. But they still were good enough to get a point in this seesawing battle in round 1. Another draw as well, Alamein and Preston 1-1, Tonchi also. And then there was a bigger win for Bayside United, 3-0 over Southern United. It was spoils shared in the big derby between South Melbourne and Heidelberg, 1-1. And we've got a match to come tomorrow night, as is tradition, over at Bulleen at the Veneto Club, 8:15 kickoff. FC Bulleen Lions against the Boroondara Carey Eagles, who've just come up from the VPLW last season. So that'll be a challenge for them, and looking forward to seeing how they go. That game, you can get your football fix tomorrow night at 8:15 on NPL.TV, and FV Emerging get to cool their jets and wait until next week to play their first game, because there's an odd number of teams in this comp, which is not ideal, but that's the way it's panned out. With we thought there was going to be 4 teams promoted from the VPLW. Only 3 appear to have gone up. So I
believe Melbourne University was it?
Melbourne Uni were in 4th place.
They didn't have the finances, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the facilities as well. Now, speaking of next week, we've got some big games there. Box Hill United taking on Southern United on Friday night. FV Emerging also on Friday night host South Melbourne at the Knox Regional Football Centre. Calder United at home to Alamein on Saturday. Also on Saturday, Heidelberg at home to Bulleen Lions, and then the Boroondara Eagles are at home to Bayside United. Preston Lions have the bye, and I cannot wait to see what it's going to be like when the Preston Lions host their first NPLW game at BT Connor Reserve. There will be hundreds, if not thousands, of people there. So that's going to be something to look forward to.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see some more of this action. It's going to be a big season for the NPLW. It is a World Cup year, which we're hosting. It doesn't get any bigger than this.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, folks, we're going to take a very quick short break. When we return, we're going to turn our attention to NPL Victoria men's competition. And our guest for tonight, they've started exceptionally well, as Steve, my colleague, said moments earlier. The Melbourne Knights, and Ben Khan, he'll be joining us very shortly. So Knights fans and everyone else who follows the NPL Victoria, don't go away, folks. We'll be right back. It's the Football Out West Show. Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League One outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Corp, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Corp specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Corp can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscorp.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West Show.
And welcome back to the Football Out West show, proudly brought to you by Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Corp. Thank you for your support. Whether you be a sponsor or a regular viewer, we welcome it week in and week out. And we also welcome our guests very much, especially when we've got a big name waiting in the green room. And we'll bring him up on screen now because it is the new head coach of the Melbourne Knights, Mr. Ben Cahn. He's coming off picking up 3 points at JL Murphy yesterday. Good evening, Ben, and you must be in good spirits after a successful weekend.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yep, absolutely.
Yes, all good. Yeah,
good.
All good.
Yeah. Good spirit. It's nice to get 3 points. Wasn't ideally the way we wanted to do it. We had the 2-goal lead, and it would have been nice to have, got the third and seen it out with a bit more comfort. But disappointing to let them back in the game and bring it to 2-2. But obviously happy that we had the character and desire to go on and get the winner in the end.
Now, Ben, before we go on, welcome to the show, first of all. But let's just tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you're a very young fella, and you've already completed your pro license course as well. So you've got a lot of coaching, obviously packed in such a short CV, I suppose. But tell us more about the Ben Cahn story.
Yeah, look, it's I had like many other young men, had broken dreams of being a professional footballer. I grew up in London, coming through the academy system, and like so many young men coming through that system, I got spat out, chewed up and spat out the other end. Was lucky enough to have found my way to Australia and landed, and I very, very quickly, found my love for the game again through coaching young players and the type of character I am. Once I delve into something, I give it everything, and the competitor in me was, always wanted to be the best I could possibly be. So that journey took me, through the development pathway on the Sunshine Coast and through Football Queensland, through some club teams on the Sunshine Coast as well, and ultimately led me to Central Coast Mariners in 2016. Youth team there, and was lucky enough to have worked as an assistant coach in the first team as well, which was a great experience. And then I took the head coach's job at Olympic and did 5 years in Brisbane, and needed a new challenge at the end of last year, and now I find myself in lovely Melbourne.
So it was a case of the Melbourne Knights ringing you up at the right time after 5 years at Olympic, and going quite close last year, but not quite getting there, and then this being the right fit at the right time and coming down just for sampling some cooler weather.
Yeah, look, it wasn't the weather that drew me, I'll tell you that. No, look, 5 years at one club is a long time, and I love Olympic, and a part of my heart will always be at Olympic, and I have lots of people I talk to every week still there. But 5 years with one club is a long time, and I'm a young, ambitious coach, and I needed a new challenge. I needed a new playing group and a new league to compete in, and it was definitely something that was probably right for the club as well. I think that playing group maybe needed a new voice too, and some fresh ideas. So the timing was right for both of us, and I've had contact with Pave at Melbourne Knights for 3 or 4 years now, and it's it was quite an easy decision, and it seemed like the right fit.
Well, we'll have a look at the latest Knights triumph against Port Melbourne yesterday. But before we do that, Steve, let's have a look at the results of round 5, and then we'll look at the ladder positions as well. But it all started on Friday with Bentleigh Greens. Who would have thought, their 5th loss of the season? Let's go through those results, Steve.
Yeah, Bentleigh Greens, their run of outs continued with the Thunder, Harry Ashcroft, Jeffrey Leno, and Joshua Carrance, all on the score sheet. A convincing win for the Thunder at Kingston Heath. And there was a big upset in the other game as well, with Heidelberg United struggling a lot. Mm-hmm. They had Kane Shepherd and Sean Ellis find the back of the net. South Melbourne, who've been a hard team to get past this season, they would have been shocked by that result. A big result for Avondale in terms of the scoreline anyway. A bit of a cricket score against Moreland City. A couple of goals for Liam Boland. Singles for Joey Katabian, Xander Guy, Dylan Jacoupy got a double, as did Stefan Zinni. Tonchi, you were at North Geelong yesterday to see the win for Hume City. A double for Brandon Lawton was among the scorers there.
Yeah, look, North Geelong, they're going to really struggle this year. Lack of depth, that's going to be the big problem. They conceded 4 goals from the previous week against Avondale. And look, they shot out to a 3-0 deficit very, very kind of early on, I suppose. Like it was by this time, it was the second half. And still, Coach Stuart Begg wasn't making any changes to the defence. And so you could see that there's severe limitations with the defence and all other parts of the field as far as depth there. They've had a few injuries. They've had a couple of suspensions. Dare I say, Nikola Jurkovic has been one of their better players this year. I think he may even sit out next week because I think he's collected already 3 yellow cards. I may be wrong on that. But yeah, look, yesterday it was all one-way traffic. Hume City, even though they were winless prior to this game, I tell you what, they were just really unstoppable. As you mentioned, Lawton was just incredible. They had a couple of other players as well that did really, really well. But North Geelong are going to struggle if they don't pick up some players very quickly and some quality players. But the wind was really bad and they just could not play with those conditions in the first half. And that was 4-0 to Hume City.
And just those other games as well from yesterday, Green Gully getting a win over Altona in an all Western Suburbs derby. Mark Hosky on the score sheet for the Magic, Waring for Green Gully, and then a winner for Noel Bernardo, who crashed into the fence as part of his celebration. If you haven't seen that on MPL TV, or look up the MPL Twitter account there, it's posted up there. It's something to say. I haven't seen something like that before, that's for sure. And the game today as well, a really good result for St Albans, considering they had Michael Gergic sent off on 31 minutes, but Christopher Dibb scoring with a header, and Stefan Valentini had early opened the scoring also with a header. It seems like a good place to score aerially, does Churchill Reserve. But yeah, we'll get back to that game. You guys took the lead, as you were saying there, Ben. Mitch Hoare getting I think it's his first of the season, an own goal by Kayo Degordi, and then pegged back by Luca Tavira and Chris Duggan, probably the 2 standout players for Port this season. That was probably a little bit frustrating, but then Mo Sumayoro did the damage for you. That would have put a smile on your face seeing Mo get on the score sheet as well.
It did. Mo's been, he's been superb so far this year, and it's been tough for him because he hasn't had a start every week. And when you look to the bench, in those tight games and against big teams and good teams, you want to see people's body language enthusiastic, and Mo's the ultimate team player. He was ready to do his job, and he came on and gave it everything, and he took his finish really well.
Now, Steve, me and you, we commentated the North Geelong Port Melbourne game back in round 2 at Alco Park, and we were both impressed with Port Melbourne, the way they were very disciplined, well drilled, and we said that this was going to be definitely a team that was going to be fighting for the top or thereabouts, whatever. But obviously, this is a huge result for the Knights, and you've had a great start to the season yourself. And now it's 2 wins back-to-back, Bentley Greens last week and now Port Melbourne Sharks this week. Is this the start of a momentum shift? Is this the start of now the Knights now clicking into a higher gear and things really like catapulting the team up the competition standings, Ben?
Look, I hope so. We were, round 1 was tough at St Albans in the Croatian derby, big crowd, pitch wasn't great for the way we play. I was happy with the performance, for our first game, and thought we deserved to come away with more than the draw. The Oakley game was very, very tough for us for half an hour. We were under a lot of pressure, and, they could have scored 2 or 3 early. But from there on, we matched them every step of the way. We got a good point, but the performance, gave me a lot of confidence that we were heading in the right direction. And away at South, look, I thought we were great. We dominated the game, and we did everything bar put the ball in the back of the net. And when you play against South Melbourne, you know that they've got that threat with long throws and that physicality and the direct way they play and counter-attack well. So we got sucker punched with the long throw but we, as a coach, you can't react too emotionally. You have to go away and analyse the performance. And I was very pleased with those first 3 games, even though we didn't come away with a win. And Bentley, we only won 1-0, but it was a comfortable 1-0, and on another day maybe that's 4, 5, or 6. The 10 men meant that they went down to 10 men early. It meant that they didn't come out too much, and we still had to break down a very deep team, which seems easier to do. And people, when you play 11v10, expect you to go on and score 5 or 6 goals, but in reality you end up breaking down a deeper team anyway. So look, it was important that we followed up the Bentley result with a good performance and good result at Port yesterday. Port are an outstanding football team. I was very, very impressed with they caused us a lot of problems. It was, I know we took the 2-goal lead, but prior to our first goal, they were probably the better side early in the game. They're very, very difficult to play against. And I think between us scoring the first and before they got there first, we were very good, and we could have, we had a lot of chances to make it 3 or 4. Had we done that, we probably, it would have been a bit more comfortable. But once they scored, we panicked a bit, and they had a lot of momentum. You often see that with a 2-0 that goes to 2-1. And in the end, it was at 2-2. It was two really good teams trying to go at each other and get the win. And we were, fortunately for us, it landed in our favour.
And definitely, you mentioned that result a few weeks earlier against South Melbourne, and I was there watching you guys that night, and I can see, I'm not surprised that you've come away with 2 wins since that night, because despite the sucker punches you mentioned, there were some really good signs there. I thought of some good football being played on that surface there at Lakeside that night. But there's a couple of players I wanted to ask you about who you've recruited this season. One of them is Steve White, who's come down with you. How did that discussion go about him? Was it him following you or you following him? And the other one I wanted to ask about was Ivaro Nepomuceno, because I don't think we've seen a Carousel International in NPL Victoria before. How did that transfer come about to come out to the Knight Stadium?
Steve White has, he was with me at Central Coast Mariners, captain of my youth team there. So when I went to Olympic, he came with me. He was a consistent standout in NPL Queensland for the 5 years, and every year he had the opportunity to come to Melbourne. He had a lot of clubs knocking on his door, ringing his phone. He, thankfully for me, he stuck out the project with Olympic and was great for us there. But, I think he had Melbourne on his radar at some stage soon. And the fact that I came down here made it hopefully an easy decision for him. And he's, we missed him in the Oakley game. He got sent off late in the St Albans game, and we really missed his composure in possession in that first half an hour against Oakley. So, since then he's come in and really linked up well with Duzzy, Anthony Dizelle, and given us a really good platform to build the way we play. And for Guevara, that's an interesting. That was just through work. Terry McFlynn was involved in helping us get that one done, and he's had a colourful history and CV. He's played in a lot of interesting places, and we obviously, look at the 2018-19, I think it was, where he was at Oldham in League Two in England. He was fantastic, and if you look at the fans' feedback from him, then they loved him. He was a real fan favourite, and somebody with that quality, we knew, we knew if we could bring him in, even if it's a little bit later in his career, that if we can get him hungry and enjoying what we're doing and fit, he's going to contribute massively in this league.
Fantastic.
And how about his free kick the other week as well against, I think it was Oakley Cannon. What a rocket.
Yeah, look, it's that left foot is, I haven't, on my football journey, I haven't seen many that compete with his, to be honest with you.
Mate, you haven't seen my left foot. Oh, gosh.
Yeah. True. It's pretty menacing.
Ben, thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to chat to you for a lot more. There's so much going on, both at the Melbourne Knights and obviously with the National Second Division, and the Melbourne Knights having a big, expressing an interest there. There's a lot to talk about. Maybe we can get you on a little bit later on in the season. But in the meantime, this Friday night, the Knights taking on Altona Magic at home. That's kickoff at 7:30 p.m. at the Knights Stadium. Round 6 action there on Friday night. Wishing you, mate, all the very, very best, and everyone down at the Melbourne Knights. It's your 70th year this year, so they're expecting big celebrations this year. And for all the sake of all the Knights fans, we certainly hope that you can deliver, and the players there as well. So all the very best for the year ahead.
No, thank you for having me anytime.
Always a pleasure.
To coming
Thanks,
back
Ben.
on.
Ben Kahn, the coach of the Melbourne Knights. Folks, don't go away. When we return, we're going to do a very, very quick NPL2 Victoria roundup. And then we've got our second guest for tonight, the president of new NPL3 side, Caroline Springs George Cross, Mark Sultana. He'll be joining us as well. Don't go away.
At Guzman Finance, like you, we are passionate about the Western Suburbs and football. Our main passion, however, is helping customers succeed in their financial goals. As trusted mortgage brokers, we offer knowledge, personalised service, and access to hundreds of loan products from Australia's leading lenders. If you're in the market for buying your first home, looking for a better interest rate on your mortgage, renovating your home, or buying an investment property, my team and I will help you manage the process from start to finish. Avoid costly mistakes and expensive loan products. Contact our office on 9369 6805 or 0425 826 055.
Welcome back to the Football Out West show. And Steve, let's quickly now, before we go to our next guest, let's have a quick look at the NPL2 Victoria competition standings and the results played over the weekend. Another interesting division, this one.
Yeah, big time. So Werribee City went down at home to Northcote City on Saturday afternoon in those warm conditions. At the same time, it was a 3-3, a 6-goal thriller between Brunswick City and Langwarrin there at Dunstan Reserve in West Brunswick. Melbourne City going down to a red-hot Pascoe Vale, who find themselves top of the tree. 2-1 winners were Pascoe Vale at Parade College. Another high-ish scoring thriller at Petty's Reserve. Manningham United Blues have been good value this season. And as, of course, we see every week, Preston Lions certainly are too, with their style of play and their fans that they bring too. And then a couple of results from, we got that Brunswick Juventus and Eastern Lions score from Saturday evening. I'm just looking for that one now. Someone will put that in the comments, I'm sure. We've still got a game to come on Monday night, Kingston City and FC Bulleen Lions. There was a match as well today. Western United hosted Dandenong City at...
I think that was a 1-0 result, a 1-0 win for Western United, I'm pretty sure.
There you go. And they needed that win too, because they've been struggling a bit. But Dandenong City, they're showing a lot of good signs, but they're not getting the results at the moment, Dandenong City. But with a really good squad and Nick Tolios at the helm, I'm sure it's only a matter of time until they go on a run. And this is a cracking league at the moment, this one. 14 teams rather than the 12 of the previous season, and really enjoying it. And there's no team in there at the moment that thinks they're that they're easy beats, that's for sure. And there's so many teams with aspirations to finish high. Look at the teams in the lower places there: Dandenong City, Brunswick Juventus, and Bulleen Lions, albeit with a game in hand. All really quality outfits that want to be up there and challenging.
I doubt very, very much that those three teams will be at the foot of the ladder, and probably Werribee City as well. They've got a dream run home towards the end of the season, and I think those teams will be moving slowly their way up. But Pascoe Vale looking very, very good at the moment. They've got real aspirations of going to the high division, the elite competition, and they missed out, just missed out last year. They will be very hungry. And look, Preston Lions, they are super ambitious. They want to go higher than the NPL2. NPL, they want to go to the national second division. But, it all starts with earning promotion to the NPL competition next year. Steve, round 6 fixtures on Friday night at Frank Holohan. Dandenong City taking on Manningham United. A big game at CB Smith Reserve. Also on Friday night, Pascoe Vale at home to Langwarrin.
Oh, yeah. Big game. First versus third.
Oh, absolutely. And also on Friday night at BT Connor Reserve, another big blockbuster. Preston Lions taking on Melbourne City. A must-win game for Preston, a must-win game for Melbourne City. Then on Saturday, we've got a couple of interesting games. Have you got the fixtures there?
Yeah, indeed. We've got a bit of an all-Western fixture there. Werribee City hosting Western United at Costas Mitre 10 Park, Pitch 1, Galvin Reserve, Werribee. So there'll be a few people there. That lovely surface there, the best in the West, that surface, I think, just about. Brunswick City will be hosting Brunswick Juventus. So Brunswick Derby at Dunstan Reserve at 3 o'clock on Saturday. There should be a few people at that one, shouldn't there?
Oh, and Monday, you'd expect that.
moving on to Monday, the 27th, tomorrow week, 2 games, both Kingston City hosting Eastern Lions, 8:15 at the Grange, and FC Bulleen Lions hosting Northcote City at the Veneto Club. This league is absolutely nuts, and just can't get enough of it, actually. It's just entertainment plus.
Absolutely. Look, another league that I think is going to have a lot of interest for, because there's two, but there's also relegation back to the state leagues, is NPL3 Victoria competition as well. And to tell us a little bit about how his team went on the weekend, a very happy president of the Caroline Springs, George Cross, and a great fan and friend of the show, Mark Sultana. Mark, welcome back to the Football Out West program. It's like old times. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back, actually. Saw Steve yesterday, and yes, we're an NPL club. Finally, I can come onto this show and say we're an NPL football club.
I was going to say, the last time we spoke to you, you were the president of a State League One club, the championship-winning State League One club, but now it's NPL. Mate, obviously a great start yesterday. Tell us about the weekend, because it was huge out at George Cross this weekend.
Oh, yeah, unbelievable weekend. But started off, obviously, with the start of the George Cross Cup for the Mini Roos program. And again, a huge thank you to all the clubs that participated. It was a 2-day tournament. Darcy and his wonderful band of volunteers executed extremely well, and it was just a pleasure to see that. Then we obviously had our game under very trying conditions, I must say.
Absolutely.
We nearly lost Steve off the scaffold, but anyway, that's another story, to be honest. But
we need to weigh you down, mate. We're going to need to put weights in your pocket.
I don't think it would have mattered if I was 200 kgs. I think I still would have gone off the side there. We lost the tripod. The table went up in the air. It was not a good sight there. It was scary times, but we're built of stern stuff. Us broadcasters, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If you ask us.
We had everything under control, didn't we, Steve?
We did.
It was fine. So, but yeah, no, look, and that was a tough win for the guys. You can really see that they're invested. A huge coaching. Look, it's not easy when opening game of an NPL program of which we've been starving for a long time. So, Eric and his team had a lot of pressure on them. Yeah, I don't know. Look, probably Steve saw me. I was probably a little bit subdued. It was just a lot going on, watering pitches, making sure that it was all and that the conditions were right for everybody, for both teams. When the wind changed, we were opted to play with the wind, and then the wind bloody changed on us. So we were playing against the wind in the first half, and the players were tired. So that was that. In the meantime, I had our women's senior squad over at Sale challenging for Night Cup qualification again, and they were 2-0 down. And again, very trying conditions. There was a bit of going on. I hear the dynamic was fairly solid at that space. So, and they ended up winning 5-3, which was amazing. So, yeah, absolutely. And then you sort of got today again, NPL boys playing Green Gully, which is obviously an arch rival club for us. So there's a lot there that not only for John and again of all his coaches, but we had a really good day. 14s unfortunately lost, but that's a very interesting program. Whereas I was talking about the 18s last year, but 14 seems to be another area where we've got to do a little bit more work on and just get them to understand that there's not too much pressure. But and then 15s drew and 16s won and 18s won in a trying game. 2 last goals by Green Gully ended up being a 3-2 win. So, and then we had Western United play their youth team against Dandenong City and beat them. And then obviously their under-21s program was playing as well. So
full on.
Just a quiet weekend then for you, Mark. Not too much on at the club.
Again, you can't do it without the people like Lisa and John and Eric and Theo and Costa and and all of the coaches at the NPLs and Mini Roos. It's massive. I mean, it's extremely proud to be part of, but it's certainly very consuming. So I think you sit back and you look at how other clubs do it and you try and formulate your own processes. It's quite an interesting scenario for a lot of us at George Cross anyway. So
yeah, absolutely. And I must say a big thanks to Lisa as well for getting us the team lineups, the names and numbers for the squads ahead of the appointment during the week for last night. So much appreciative of all the volunteers there, especially Lisa.
And doesn't it help,
Yeah.
Steve, as commentators, we're commentators, doesn't it help when you do have club officials? And we club officials are so stretched, but when you've got club officials that, kind of help you out on little tasks like that, like getting the team lineups, which is time consuming, and it just helps us prepare all that better. And Mark, as you know, when you're well prepared for anything, the end product is much better, and that usually reflects in our commentating as well. That when we're prepared and we've got things like that. So to all those club administrators out there that do look after the reporters and the media, thank you so much.
It's a shit. Look, the whole part in the round. Again, Lisa Jurich's role is that not only does she work and work on the club itself, but works so much in the club in terms of, that many engagement. We hosted the Community Shield for Football Victoria as well the previous Friday. There's so much organisation, and you can't do it without people, guys. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes you sit back and think, how do you engage with your communities? But I think organically, if you bring everybody together and you host juniors while seniors are playing, so that there's a buy-in from both parts, so that the club can see that not only are we invested in seniors, but we're invested in juniors, and to see that they can just walk across from the synthetics over to the grass pitches for us. Hence why the facility is so important for the growth of our football club.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Mark, take a little bit of a break. While Steve and I, we're going to go through the results of the opening round of the NPL3 Victoria competition. Some really interesting games, one big scoreline, and we'll go through that very, very shortly. But Steve, have you got the results there handy for round one of the NPL3 competition?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do actually, Tonchi. So going back to yesterday, just yesterday at 3 o'clock, it all kicked off. North Sunshine Eagles getting a win at Larissa Reserve over Essendon Royals. So a good start for the Eagles. Also a good start at home for Nunawading City, 2-1 over Ballarat City, and for the Goulburn Valley Suns in their foray into NPL3 after being relegated last season. 4-0 winners at John McEwen over the Boroondara Carey Eagles. As we mentioned, Georgie's 1-0 over Box Hill. Geelong, a win at Stead Park, 1-0 over Doveton. Gee, a good weekend for the home side. It's a good thing you drew a home game first, Mark. And then that final game today, Tonchi, have you got that result? Melbourne
I don't actually.
Beau Morris.
Do we know the score of that Melbourne Victory Beau Morris game that was played earlier today?
I think Victory won 3-1, I think.
There we go. So that'd be probably in second position after that. So if we now look at round two fixtures coming up next week, and it all starts with Friday night. We'll talk about this very, very shortly. Caroline Springs and Boroondara Carey Eagles. But on Saturday, North Sunshine Eagles are at home to Box Hill United. Nunawading City host Essendon Royals. Doveton will be looking to notch their opening win of the season at Waratah Reserve when they're when they host Melbourne Victory. Goulburn Valley Suns at home to Beau Morris, and Ballarat City entertain Geelong on a Sunday afternoon. But on the Friday night, something different. Under lights, Caroline Springs George Cross hosting Boroondara Carey Eagles, the two newly promoted sides. Wow, we're expecting a major blockbuster here.
Oh, us at George's, mate, we don't mind having a party, so we might as well turn it on for a Friday night. So, a bit of music, a bit of fun, just something different again. I think we're a better team. I think we are a little bit of a better team at night on the faster pitch and with the dew down. I think, again, you talk to your head coach and you try and formulate what's the right thing for the team as much as it is for the club. Friday nights is also a big night for us at our club. We have a poker night as well. So it's just about, it's all about entertaining. Yep. The senior men's a part of that, and the senior women's a part of that. So you've got to try and bring it in. We think every game's a blockbuster for us at home, especially. You know what we like. We're a growing club, and we're trying very hard to
be innovative.
Really bet ourselves. That's right. So.
Definitely. Now, Mark, a lot of hype at the moment. The National Second Division's got off the ground, and your club's been a huge advocate for that and done a lot of great work in the background. Was it a difficult decision for the club to decide not to put in an expression of interest, or was it something that was a little bit polarizing, or it was just not the right time?
Look, great question, Steve. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still get cold shivers when you talk about the NSD because we're still a very aspirational football club. I think the decision that entailed was more or less, are we actually ready? I think my role is to understand and give clarity to the board about the commitment that you're about to intake in terms of one, the financial model, and secondly, have we really bedded down the growth of our football club? I've got there's a concern for me in the sense that we need people to really give it a real strong opportunity. I think we've got a winner in the sense that there are a lot of them are community football clubs, and don't get me wrong, there's some consortiums like you mentioned previously to me coming on. But look, don't get me wrong, guys, we're an extremely aspirational football club, and certainly under my tenure and the board currently involved is about making sure that our model is secure. So yes, it was an extremely difficult decision, and a decision that I did not consult with some of the older generation of football members within our football club as well. So, but does it mean that we're not wanting to be part of that? No, not at all. I think for us, rebuilding this, wonderful football club is about to understand what is really involved and how do we do it and, plan for it. I think that's probably the best opportunity for us to be a real successful participant within that national secondary. And don't get me wrong, I hope, for God's sake, that this comes off. And for those clubs that really want to, exercise that and execute it, hopefully the financial models are solid enough. And, I've got to say to you, Preston's probably been quite methodical about it. And I think that's why they'll be, heavily successful at it. And I still think we're a year, if not a couple of years from really making sure that we're a sustainable football club for all the right reasons.
Without, at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to tell you how to manage your affairs, but like what I do say is this sounds just like responsible management at the end of the day. And you've just entered the NPL. There's patience, all good things come to those who are patient. And this seems to me like a really well smart out strategy, because at the end of the day, Steve, no one really knows. Like we've got this kind of idea of what the National Second Division is going to be, but we don't really know, one, which teams from where, what the costs exactly involved. Will there be TV rights? I mean, this is the thing. It's a different proposition now than it was the old NSL when it folded 20 or so years ago. So it may well be viable. It may well not be viable. We don't really know at this point, don't we?
Look, Tonchi, what I will say, and I will say this with my hand on heart, that I want the National Second Division to be successful. What I will say to all of my members, because that is it is my duty of care to give my membership clarity around this, is that we believe Football Australia would want clubs like us involved, but making sure that we have a sustainable model. And that when we do apply for it, we apply for it knowing that we are conscious of the responsibilities for this football club. And I think that's the important part for us. It is a disappointing thing for myself, only for the fact that I am very proud of what we've been able to achieve as a football club. But I got to say to you, it was an extremely responsible decision for us. If you had a look at whatever our football club was able to execute today, we're more than capable of doing it, Tonchi and Steve. There's no doubt about that. But the thing for us is that we want this to be sustainable. We don't want this just whilst we're growing. We may end up, let's say we don't get promoted this year, okay? The endeavour is to get promoted, but let's say we don't get it promoted. Well, okay, you're an NPL 3 club, and you're applying for a National Second Division, and that's a huge leap, not only just from football, but from management itself, okay? So again, we sold out of chips today. We sold out of everything all weekend. It's been a huge day at the football club. Well, huge weekend. I mean, we were ringing around for chips and dim sims and potato cakes today. And our wonderful sponsor in Delray's, obviously they were closed, but we were given a contact to call today from Complete Food Services, who helped us out, drove to Preston, brought us some chips, brought us this, and I think, oh my God, that's just with what we did this weekend. Imagine if we're in National Second Division, we got to fly our whole team, and who do we leave behind to run this part of our business? And that, I mean, it's a huge
undertaking.
And it is. And I think we've got to do it in the right way. And I've got to say to you, I'm going to be really honest with what I'm about to say. We've got a lot of work around our women's space that needs to be perfected. And I'm going to be really honest. I think that's now a very strong part of what we need to do, and need to do a little bit better, and I need to engage a little bit more and understand that the same expectation on our women's program is the same expectation what's been on our men's and boys program. The Football Victoria has given us the opportunity to do pre-NPL from our women's space. So not that we're an NPL club at this stage, but they're allowing us to apply for a pre-NPL situation.
What does that mean? That's an interesting thing that you talk about, because the senior women will be in State 2 this year after getting promoted from
Correct.
State 3.
Absolutely.
And the pre-NPL, is that more seniors, or is that more juniors, or is that club?
No, it's junior. No, it's the junior orientated system, which again gives you the same ability as we applied for a license through the junior NPL boys, right? So we weren't an NPL club when we applied and won that license to become a club that could entertain NPL boys, right? So I think what they're doing now is giving both the female space and the boys space for those clubs that aren't in NPL in both systems, the opportunity to get their program correct, and so that there'll be a pre-NPL club, which Preston will be one of them, obviously, because they're not an NPL boys club at this point in time, but it just gives them the opportunity to be well prepared and well organised to apply for that license, which again gives it a real sort of growth under management, so that you're organised and understand your roles and responsibilities in and around that space. So for us, I think as much work as we did on our men's team last year, and remember, I was a club that was promoted twice. The first time I thought. So this has been going for a long time for us. So it does, again, like I said, it's consuming, okay? But I think the same effort needs to go in and around the women's space, and definitely the girls' space. I mean, we had a girl today who played in a mixed team in our George Cross Cup today, who obviously was playing for a George Cross under 9s, I believe, female mixed team, and she was the goalkeeper, and we won in penalties, and she burst out crying. That's how invested these girls are in trying to succeed at what we would say the boys' level, because that's a real contentious issue still currently, and has been for a while, and is getting a lot better. But you know what? If the club can own the senior men's in the way that it did, I'm not sure if the senior women's would get that space yet, because obviously we're only in State 2. But the aspiration for that team has to stay strong. We have to concentrate on it, and maybe second division may have diverted a bit of that, a bit of the finances and a bit of the time and the management that goes into trying to grow that area. So I've got to say to you, I think it's important that over the next sort of 18 months, we really appreciate the women's space within our football club. And there's a number of clubs that are doing it well and have done it well, and we need to be one of those clubs. I think we need to be a club that is engaging for both sides. I love it. And that's very clear from us as a board. Again, you just take away from that space, and guys, the women's teams, it's a difficult area. It is a tough area, because the messaging can sometimes be misconstrued, right? We do believe in them, we do respect them. Yes, they're not at the same level as our men's situation, and that's not a criticism. That's more about owning it and understanding what our job and our roles and our responsibilities are to try and get to the same level for not only men but female, and also boys and girls. So there's a lot going on in football, albeit it's very, very good. Like I said to you, the pre-NPL is sensational for clubs.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of it. It is exciting. It's almost like a cliche, Steve, isn't it? We say on this show, but it is exciting times ahead. And indeed, look for Caroline Springs, George Cross on the field and off the field. It's just a continuation of all the exciting things that happened last year, and there is a lot more in the pipeline. So, mate, thank you for joining us once again. We've run out of time, unfortunately. We've got Nick Georgakopoulos from Clifton Hill coming up next to talk State League football.
Good man.
Thank you so much for joining us, and wishing you all the very best, Mark.
Oh, look, again, thank you for having me on, and thank God I can see you, Steve. I thought I lost you for a little bit there yesterday, mate. So, Yeah, trust me, it's really good to see you there,
That's
mate.
right.
To be honest,
Yeah,
I
we're up there
sincerely
singing.
apologise.
We were singing "Staying Alive" there yesterday, so yeah, no, that's
oh, mate, you must have been doing the signs of the cross every time. Anyway, all good.
Good
Thanks
stuff.
so much, and again, thank you everyone from George Cross. And I love it. You know that.
Good on you.
So,
Thanks, Mark. Great to see you, and all the best.
Mark Sultana, the president of Caroline Springs George Cross. Always a pleasure having that gentleman on our show, and he's such a fantastic, positive person to have. Steve, we're going to take a very, very short break. When we do return, we're going to be speaking State League football. We'll be looking at State League 2 Northwest Division, and Clifton Hill. They recorded a massive win on the weekend yesterday against Geelong Rangers up at Myers Reserve in Bellpost Hill in Geelong.
Big winners.
5-0 win, and we'll find out all about that from their very, very happy coach, Nick Georgakopoulos, straight after this break. Don't go away, folks. It's the Football Out West show, proudly brought to you by Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Core. Don't go away. Carpentry by NJT is based in the western suburbs and has many years of experience to assist you in sourcing any and all of your carpentry needs. Carpentry by NJT are great supporters of local soccer clubs in Melbourne's western suburbs, including ambitious State League 1 outfit, Sydenham Park Soccer Club. Home Builders Core, meanwhile, is a Melbourne-based construction company by the same owners with more than 15 years' experience. Home Builders Core specialises in new homes and unit developments. With attention to detail, they work to the highest standard to satisfy their customers with a very quick turnaround. For further details about how either Carpentry by NJT or Home Builders Core can help you, contact owner-manager Nick on 0410 576 018 or via email at nick@homebuilderscore.com.au. Carpentry by NJT and Home Builders Core are the proud major sponsors of the Football Out West show. Welcome back to the Football Out West show. It's episode 105. Steve, who's our next guest coming on the show now?
Well, waiting in the green room, we've got another winners of grinners tonight, Tonchi, it seems like. 3 guests, all had had good wins on the weekend, but this gentleman had the biggest of all wins on the weekend, 5-0. Nick Georgakopoulos, the head coach of FC Clifton Hill, has been good enough to spend his Sunday evening enjoying our company. Nick, how are you doing tonight? We hope we haven't kept you up too late, and looking forward to hearing about that great result. You must be all smiles as well tonight.
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me on board, guys. Very delighted to get 3 points in the first game away from home in treacherous conditions and testing conditions, as everyone's probably mentioned and been aware of. But yeah, good to get the monkey off the back and first win and take it a step at a time, I guess.
Nick, first of all, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on board. Yeah, Myers Reserve up on Bellpost Hill.
That's a windy place at the best of times.
I was going to say, I know that place very well. And, was the grandstand flying? Did you have any trampolines from the neighbouring suburbs?
A cow going past overhead.
I mean, how was it? Explain to us, how did the boys cope dealing with that?
Look, it was very testing. I mean, we left Melbourne. It was a bit overcast, but getting on the freeway, just as soon as you got into Geelong, literally the sun just hit you. And look, I think the boys sort of struggled to start off with. It was nice and cool in the change rooms, and they didn't want to get out. But look, I feel the boys that have sort of just come on board this year found it a bit difficult in regards to the conditions. But you could sort of just tell, and I think speaking to everyone across the board, it was very testing and trying. But look, like I said, we battled. We had a bit of a go. Geelong had a bit of a go to start off with. So we're on the back foot to start off with. But just a bit of experience probably got us through at the end of the day. And, yeah, look, the scoreline is flattering, but still a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, definitely. Always more work to do, but certainly you can't be too disappointed with the 5-0 start. But you look like you've got a strong squad this season, Nick. Was it easy to recruit players over to the Quarry venue over there in Clifton Hill this year after last season's relegation, or were you able to persuade these players to come across? The likes of Chris Theodorides, who's been on loan at Heidelberg United, if I'm not mistaken, in the top tier of the NPL. A pretty handy player to have between the posts in State League 2.
Yeah, look, last year was a a disastrous year, and I think it was a reset button literally the day after we got relegated, and sat down with the committee and the president and identified exactly what we needed, and we started working pretty much straight away. We recruited the likes of Chris Theodoridis towards the latter part of the end of the year, and then the likes of Harry Noon, John McShane, who sort of finished off the season, jumped on board again for 2023. So we're fortunate to get those guys on board and sort of built around that. And from last year's squad, we sort of just only kept the 4 or 5 that were there to finish off the season, and just like I said, just had a whole rebuild and a reset in regards to a clear path for what we want to do moving forward as a club.
Now, we had 5 different individual goal scorers yesterday. Keeley, Graham, Foster, Williamson, Hunt and Jones. And there was an interesting player on in the Rangers team, a certain Jay Savinsky, whose famous father, Adrian Savinsky, used to play in the old National Soccer League. It was a very much younger side from the Geelong Rangers, but they will certainly find it going tough. But let's talk about your side. Obviously, 5-0 first game of the season. As a coach, you must be pretty happy. What do you do now to sort of make sure that they don't get too excited and that they get too carried away by a first round result? Because there's still, 21 games to go before the end of the season. And as a coach, you must be thinking, what a great way to start the season. But is there a part of you sort of thinking, oh, geez, now I'm going to really have to sort of calm down the egos and the excitement in the dressing room?
Look, to be fair, like I said before, I think the older heads keep the boys in check and make my job a little bit easier. Again, we're not thinking too far ahead. We just take it a week at a time. Yes, 5-0 is quite flattering. How do you sort of contain it the following week? I think it's just going back to what we've been doing. Pre-season's been positive, and again, we recruited very early, so the group's been together pretty much for the last 2 or 3 months, day in, day out. And all credit goes to them because they're all buying into what we want to do. So, like I said, we've got a solid foundation. We've got a bit of a solid backbone in regards to a few experienced boys. We've got a few of the younger boys that have come on board as well. And look, to be honest, they drive themselves week in, week out, whether it be at training, after games. They're all doing the right things to get back on track again. And they know it themselves. It's not going to be an easy season. Obviously, State 2 is a very difficult one with many teams that are sort of vying for promotion. A lot of clubs are signing heavily. So, look, like I said, it's only round 1. A lot of things can change in football, as we know, week in, week out. We just focus on the next game ahead rather than thinking too far forward.
And then speaking of going far forward, let's actually go back in time. The pre-season, it must have gone pretty smoothly, I'm guessing, given the way that things have landed in round 1. Did you spend a lot of time in match situations, playing friendlies, going away together, or just on the training at Quarries Park?
Yeah, we spent a bit of time together. We were backing up session after session. We did a few pre-season trips away, which worked quite well because we needed to integrate quite a few new boys to the club. And I think, to be fair, on and off the park, from a committee perspective, from a playing group, everyone's working in sync. Very different to what we've been used to in the last year or so. And I think that's what's been driving the positive approach. Pre-season's gone well, and again, pre-season just to get a bit of a feel in regards to what we've got and what we need to work with. But like I said, we did our recruiting very early on at the end of last year. So our group has been together since December. So it's worked well in a sense compared to previous years. But look, like I said, on and off the park, the guys are doing what they need to do, and it's just a week at a time, a session at a time. But pre-season's gone very well in regards to the way that they've built a bit of camaraderie. Pre-season trips, what the boys have done. We had another game in Sale for the Australia Cup, which went down quite well as well. So we used that a bit of a getaway as well. So look, to be fair, off the park, we've been doing a lot of things to get the boys integrated into the group and to gel well.
Fantastic. Let's have a look at the results of round 1 in the State League 2 competition. Altona North and Layla United drew 2-2. Hoppers Crossing at home lost to Hume United 1-2. Altona East defeated Epping City 2-0. Western Suburbs defeated Albion Rovers 2-0. And there was the Mill Park game versus Westphal Olympic. I'm looking at the Football Victoria website. They don't have the results then. It's a shame
think
that
Santana will have that in the comments for us.
He will. I'm sure he will.
If he's still tuning in.
1-1, I believe.
1-1 was it? There you go. And yeah, look, that's one of the things. We look, Football Victoria. Well, is it the referees? Is it the clubs? Is it whoever? Please do something about updating those. By Sunday night, we should have all those results. But not to worry. Look, moving along to round 2 fixtures. Albion Rovers at home to Mill Park. Layla United at home to Hoppers Crossing. Westphal Olympic hosting Altona North. Geelong Rangers doing the same with Epping City. Altona East at home to Western Suburbs. And Clifton Hill, Nick, you guys are hosting Hume United in the first game of the season at Quarries Park. Is the club preparing anything special for the first home game of the season or anything like that? Or is it just, try and get as many supporters as possible to come along and really, really ride the coattails of the first round success?
Yeah, look, to be fair, all our supporters, considering what happened last year, our sponsors have come back on board. We've managed to secure more sponsors as well. So that's been very positive from the club. So we've been doing all the right things, like I keep on saying, off the park to make it easier for the guys during game days. But yeah, we do reach out to all our supporters to be there, and they've been supporting us through the course of the last 6 months in regards to our rebuilding phase and our resetting phase. But look, yeah, there's a lot of old people that have been coming back to the club. And similar to what Mark's saying, it's a club that's been historic in regards to where they've been, what we do, and we're a community club. But what we do right, and we make sure that we look after our supporters, and we do reach out for them to come and support the boys. And to be fair, they haven't sort of gone away considering to what happened last year.
And speaking about just coaching in general, I suppose, Nick, where are you yourself with your coaching journey? Where do we find, what point do we find you on of that? And also on that note as well, your staff that you're working with at FC Clifton Hill this season, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to there, or, who are the people who are making things easier for you, I suppose?
Well, first and foremost, my wife, who puts
Good
up
call.
with a lot. If you were to ask her, I'd be finished about 3 years ago. But look, I've been quite fortunate to have a lot of support from my wife. My coaching staff, obviously, I've just on board Con Kiranakis, who's joined the club, who's a previous player at Clifton Hill. And that's all I've been trying to do is bring back the people that were at the club just to make that friendly environment and that home sort of environment. We've also got Chris Davis, who's our goalkeeping coach. And just all the work that gets done in the background from the committee. Everyone who's been there for more than 20 years at the club itself. But yeah, to be fair, it's myself, the assistant coach, a goalkeeper coach, and just everyone who's supporting the club in itself. But yeah, for me, this is my second year at the club. Last year I joined as a I guess sort of just to steer the club along in regards to when Lee Tsumerkis was coaching, and I was fortunate enough to take over, and unfortunately the way that things occurred at the end. But look, for me, coaching, you're always developing, you're always learning, new club, new group, so it's sort of you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but you're just trying to make things a little bit different from a learning curve. And I guess you're not going to be successful if you don't go down, to learn something to get back up again. So you're always learning. And to be fair, I've looked at other coaches. I've played under different coaches, and just picking about certain things and certain traits that they do, and what works for me and what doesn't. So yeah, look, I definitely want to see myself continuing on the journey with Clifton Hill and reaching our achievement or our target as a club.
This is an interesting topic, gents. I'm glad you sort of brought it up, Steve. Nick, we talked to a lot of coaches from the NPL, NPL 1, NPL 2, NPL 3, for example, where, the teams are training 3-4 times a week. They're paid pretty good money, let's face it, compared to in the state leagues. And then let's say we've got clubs in the state leagues where they're maybe training twice a week. They're paid very little, if anything. It's a real labour of love. But obviously the level of commitment, dare I say, is probably the same. with yourself, do you find yourself involved or engaged in coaching Clifton Hill every day? So you're either jotting down notes, you're studying, you're talking to your colleagues and what you're not, or do you kind of are able to say switch off on a Sunday or switch off on a Monday and not worry about it until training? How does your week coaching a state league side sort of?
Yeah, I think it just depends on every coach and how heavily invested they are. And I believe that everyone who's coaching a club, regardless if they're NPL or state league, trying to get the best out of themselves and their team. And to be fair, I'm no different. I wouldn't be any different to an NPL or a state league one coach, where our work continues pretty much as soon as kickoff. As soon as the game finishes on a Saturday, we're always thinking about the next game, who our opponents are, and what we need to do. So. Yeah, look, we'll review our footage in regards to our current game that's just finished, and we'll do a bit of analysis. But it's pretty much on Sunday. It's what do we need to do to prepare for the following week, and it doesn't sort of end from there. There's phone calls. There's numerous things that will pop up during the course of the week. There's our normal everyday job that we've got to sort of deal with. Like I said, you've got your family and lifestyle that sort of takes a back seat at times, but.
Yeah.
It's all about, it's all about time management. If you've got the right resources, you've got the right people to support you, does it make it easier? It helps. But, look, for myself, I am heavily invested. And to be fair, if you ask, again, my wife, I spend more time with football than what I do with my family. So, look, it does take a bit of the shine away. But I'm one to say that if I'm going to do a job, I'll do it at 100% rather than not committing.
I'd love to see the statistics, Steve, of how many crashes actually happen on Melbourne roads on a Monday morning, people going to work, and there's all these people who's like, just had a bingle at the to because they're thinking
hopefully none, Tonchy. I don't want to hear any traffic accidents because of our coaching thought patterns.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
We're an obsessive bunch of coaches. Doesn't matter which level you're at.
Exactly.
Nick, thank you so much for chatting to us here on the Football Out West show. It's great to have you on the show, and we look forward to maybe even touching base with you throughout the season. But look, once again, at the risk of it sounding like a cliche, exciting times ahead for your club, and look, State League too. It seems like a real cutthroat type of a league. There's some clubs there that have got some great resources, great money, great teams as well, squads. But we'll certainly be keeping an eye on State 2 this year, and hoping for the sake of all Clifton Hill supporters, you guys can continue doing what you've been doing or what you started off in State 1. But certainly your opponents won't be thinking the same thing. But good luck for the year ahead, and thanks once again for joining us.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
Thanks for your time, Nick. All the best for the season.
Thank you.
Nick Georgakopoulos from Clifton Hill. Mate, what a good show. And geez, we were able to get all winners tonight, wasn't it? So it's great to have a show that's so positive, I suppose, when we have the winners. But look, you win some, lose some. It's always going to happen that, you're not always going to be able to get what you want.
That's right. But I do feel like we walk away with a winning feeling ourselves tonight, Tonchy, despite not actually competing. Yeah. So I'm happy to take that into my Monday morning tomorrow.
From all accounts, mate, after the episode of George Cross, you've come away a real winner, that's for sure, beating the elements and all the crazy wind that we've had over the weekend just gone by.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, we're looking forward to some more football next weekend, of course, Tonchy. So, and another big show next week. So stay tuned to our Facebook page and our socials to see who we've got on next week. And, maybe if we get you on, maybe that means you're going to get 3 points on next Saturday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you very much, folks, for tuning into the Football Out West show. It was episode, 105, believe it or not. We thank all of you for being a part of tonight's show. And do us a favour. Share the buggery out of this link out of this podcast, and let's get even more people tuning in, week out, because we do behind the scenes try work very, very hard. And a big shout out to our colleague Craig Filer, who's been a little bit absent on camera, but trust me, he's been doing all the hard work, getting all the guests week in, week out. So big cheerio to our mate Craig, who's working very hard. And we certainly work very hard preparing this show and trying to do the best that we can. So, help us to help you grow this beautiful sport of ours. Steve, on that note, on that very, very positive
note. I got nothing else to add.
Good night,
that was
and
perfect.
Have a great week. Have a great week. Good night, mate.
Thank you, and good evening.
Good night. Bye-bye. you.